The following program is suitable for general audience of any age. The following program contains opinions of the participants and does not reflect the views and beliefs of the Derana Media Network. The network believes in a safe space for all ideas to be expressed without any censorship and on its duty to create such a platform for free speech. Viewer discretion is strictly advised.
Hello and welcome to TPS, the Public Square on Other Derana News Channel, where we discuss about the most relevant and pressing conversations that shape the political landscape of Sri Lanka. And tonight's discussion is about something that has been the talk of the town and still is in the ongoing discussion as well, which is the 2026 National Budget. And it is a document that has been very important to you and I as much as we discuss about the challenges and the situations that Sri Lanka is facing. Now, to discuss about this, I have with me two gentlemen over here. Towards my right, I have Mr. Ruwan Wijeweera, Member of the Parliament representing the National People's Power. Welcome you to today's program.
Thank you.
And also towards my right, I have Mr. Sajishnavan Sivachandrathevan, Member of the UNP National Youth Front Interim Committee. Welcome you as well.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
All right, gentlemen. So to start off with, now this year's budget has been described as not merely a fiscal document, but more like a roadmap towards the recovery and the development. Now, in that context, since you are representing the government itself, how do you think this is specifically considered to be a roadmap where we will be taking towards the development of Sri Lanka from where we are now currently?
All right, and first of all, thank you very much for inviting, and it's a great pleasure to be here representing the government. And if I just go to your question, you ask whether this budget has been can be considered as a roadmap for the recovery as well as for the development. If I just go back to the place where we were when we took over the responsibility of the government, so it was our foremost consideration and the challenge that we had was to overcome and stabilize the macroeconomy. So macroeconomic stabilization was the main concern, though it has been done into a certain level. The continuation as well as improving the macroeconomic stability was the main and the prior concern that we had. So we, as the government, we presented our first budget, and with the IMF projections that we were given as a country, so I think that we were quite actually by and large. So we were able to achieve most of the IMF projections that we were given, especially the growth rate as well as the primary surplus, and most of the fiscal indicators are concerned. So we have done better, I think, right? But it is not enough, but considering the prevailing circumstances, that has been done well. And when you consider the current budget, right, 2026 budget is concerned, so confidently the President Anukumara Dissanayake, he presented the budget having achieved many of the fiscal indicators as well as the IMF projections that we were given. So that is this budget. So after securing most of the requests of the people have given us the mandate requesting that the rule of law as well as the good governance and many of the democratic values must be protected. So depending on that, this budget has been presented to the parliament based on 6 main strategies, especially if I go to these objectives that we presented this government, the main and most important thing was the sustainable and inclusive economic growth. Economic growth was the main concern of this budget. Then when it comes to the eradication of the poverty, digitalization, debt sustainability, so and many of the things were there. So then I think that depending on these strategies, I think the country can be converted and transformed and taken forward to the recovery as well as a development process.
All right, so since we have just gone about the first reading as well, we had the second reading on the 14th of November. So with that being said from the government side, so being in the opposition, what do you think as to this is their second budget after 2024? So with that, do you see any massive changes or do you see some optimism over this national budget that they have presented for 2026?
Yeah, when it comes to this budget, after they've taken over the country over the last 1 year. So we have several things to look at. The main thing, this budget look optimistic, so that looks positive, but like there are a few things that we noted mainly when it comes to this budget. So they identify this budget as a roadmap to an economic stable country towards the future. And the main key phrase that the President Anurag Kumar Dissanayake noted during this budget speech was "Dedas visiyate innet api naya gewennet api" was a statement which was highlighted throughout his speech. So the main thing we want to focus and highlight in this budget is after 2028 we have to repay our debts. So to repay our debts we need our foreign reserves minimum to be guaranteed minimum at least $14 billion to be in the foreign reserves. For now, we have around $6.2 billion, which is which they had around $6 billion when they take over. So over this 1 year, they have added 0.2 billion in addition. So over the last 1 year, they have added 0.2 billion. So maybe assuming okay, they can add like 1 billion each for the next 2 years, they can reach up to $8 billion maximum. So to reach to the capacity of $14 billion, we don't see any proper infrastructure or the roadmap in this particular budget. And also, as Mr. Ruwan said, we have the fiscal capacities and also the IMF directions included in this budget. But the IMF reforms, the IMF agreement finishes by 2026, and they will reevaluate all the formations of the Sri Lankan economic, and then they will reassure how the IMF is going to work with Sri Lanka in the future. So, as a leftist government, they promised to deny the IMF framework when they take over the presidency or the parliament mandate. Now they are compelling with the IMF framework, and they are ready to cope up with the IMF. So my basic question is this going to go through this IMF framework throughout after even 2006, or is this just a short-term framework to rectify all the short-term mismatches and to rectify the economic stability, and then are they going back to nationalism or the leftist mindset in the future budgets? So there are few contradictions to be noticed. So I think those are the main ideas and the contradictions we have in this particular budget. But the areas they have focused into are interesting, but there are also key issues we have noticed, so that we can discuss later, I guess.
Yes, I think I can direct that question towards you as well now. Since this budget of 2026, as he mentioned, is it only for the short-term challenges and situations, but then again we have in the long run to pay the debts and also with regards to the IMF as well. So is there an underlined structure, a framework that you all are working on, which is indicated slightly through the national budget of 2026 as well?
Yeah, that actually this is something very elaborated question, very first, and I think so we all should accept that we need to go along with the IMF because there is no any other way of going, right? So that is the main concern and main thing that we all have to understand. So if I just go back to the very first question he asked about the debt, foreign debt servicing, how it is done when it comes to 2028, and will it be a challenge or not? So definitely it will be a challenge. You know that as far as the things and the environment, socio-political environment is concerned, it's a challenge, but it can be overcome. So that is what we think. So if I give you an simple example, in 2024 foreign debt servicing remains $1,674 million, right? So which was done, and when it comes to 2025 it was around 2.4 billion, right? Initially it was around 1.6 billion and it was amounted to 2.4 billion, right, which we have already 1.9 billion have been paid, and still for 487 millions to be paid by this December, and which can be done. And 6.203 billion foreign reserves are there in the because you know that we have already taken very bold decisions to import vehicles. So around $2 billion have been gone, right? So then that is, if we had that, so we would have certainly gone to something more than this, around $8 billion we would be having. But some of the decisions are there. You need to take when there is time to be taken that decisions. You need to take that decision. You can't postpone them, right? So that is why we think that. So the budget has concerned various kinds of things, especially it's in the long run, as you asked. So there are various kinds of strategies that we are planning to implement, especially one thing, the digitalization process, right? So then it's we think that it will be a boost for various kinds of fields, and it will give most of the democratic values also. It will be able to brought back. So, right, so then that is, I think that digitalization and eradication of poverty program is coming, as well as the Clean Sri Lanka initiative. We have allocated around 6.5 billions, right, for the program to be implemented, and we think that it in the long run also we have done elaboratedly. We have done various kinds of strategies to achieve the targets and the challenges. We know that it is challenging, but it must be taken as a challenge, and we need to take some actions for that.
All right. I believe the NPP government has strongly aligned in terms of this national budget with the short-term and the long-term goals, so it is rather positive. But let's dig deep into the certain specific concerns and also the certain specific genres in terms of where the allocation of the budget has been happening. Before that, let's go in for a short commercial break. This is The Public Square. Welcome back to TPS, the Public Square. We were discussing about the national budget of 2026. Now, with regards to what you were telling, Mr. Wijeweera, now I also wanted to mention about how the certain segmentation has been happened. Now, education and health has received a very significant boost when it comes to the current national budget of 11 billion for new medical facilities and also 4.2 billion for the national ambulance services, and also a large allocation for the social welfare programs. So now in this situation, do you believe these specific allocations are merely just allocations, or do you see that it could be possibly brought about as a practical, improved way of the previous budget, where you feel like it is improved, or rather you can do much more with this allocation?
Yeah, actually, the allocations have been done with the purpose of bringing the economic development as well as the social life of the people must be changed into a better one. So that is why we consider as a government health and the education are very important segments in the economic development process. It plays a major role, especially the health and the education. So then that is, we believe as a government, education must be paid the special attention. So that is why the education reforms will be brought next year, as well as for that all the proceedings have been done and going on. And I think so that is the healthcare also, healthcare services. So we have identified not only the infrastructure development, right, but still the various kinds of new strategies must be brought into the play. So that is why we are going to start the primary healthcare units covering the small segments of the villages. So we are going to start those kinds of primary healthcare units for 5,000 and 10,000 people, right, as taken as a group. So we are going to initiate that program, as well as so various kinds of things are there in the health sector as well as the sector of education to boost the economy as well, especially the social life of the people.
Well, now with regards to the social welfare, let me get into you, Mr. Sajish. Now, when it comes to this segmentation, now we see a certain allocation for education and then health, and also for the local governments as well as the digital transformation, being Sri Lanka to get into the digital capability. So now with regards to that, do you see, is there a specific trend from the last budget to this budget that the NPP government has been following, or do you see that they have learned through their maybe situations, whatever the consequences from this whole year, and they have fixed certain measures as such when it comes to the 2026 national budget?
I think they're trying to fix what they have lacked in 2025 budget, but like I just want to highlight data during the recent past. So when it comes to the temporary relief allowance from 2019 it was 500 million rupees allocated for the temporary relief allowance, and the amount paid was not specified, but like the families benefited was stated as 153. In 2022 and 23, nothing was specified in the reports, and the families benefited were unknown. But when it comes to 2024, in the former President Ranil Wickremesinghe's government, it was the budget of allocated 1,000 million US dollars, which is 1 billion rupees allocated for the temporary relief allowance, and 800 million rupees was spent on this temporary relief, and approximately 4,000 families were benefited. The same 1,000 million rupees, which is 1 billion rupees, is allocated for 2025 by the government, and as of October 2025, there were no such data for any of those amount has been spent on temporary relief allowance, and no such families benefited according to the government data. So I doubt, even though they are interested in reforming the social and infrastructure, macroeconomy and everything, but will these allocations will be spent on the right areas, or will these implemented by the time? If we are not spending the right amount of money in the required area, or the amount which is required for the development, or whatever the specified area is, there is no such point in allocating such large amount of money in any of the sectors. So when it comes to the digitalization also, so we have few questions, because digitalization is a key thing. We appreciate that they have included and they're working on it, but their first output, like first visible output, is expected to be in the third quarter of 2026, which is the digital identity cards. So till that, we doubt how that economy works and what are the outputs, what are the other outputs we are going to see through these budgets. And there are no specific measurements for cyber security or any safe measurements against cyberbullying, cyber violences, especially against women and children. So when we focus on digitalization, we might grant access internet and AI and everything to the children, women, and everyone who has like a lack of knowledge in the specific areas and who has a potential chance to misuse all these things to through digitalization. So what are the measures that we are going to take against them? So since the cyber law is not very strong still in Sri Lanka, if a video is out or a harassment or whatever the thing happen against, mainly against a woman or a children. So how are these things going to work against? And I think the digital economy and the allocated budget is a welcomeable thing, but the infrastructure in Sri Lanka is not that strong. So how the implementation works is going to be a big question throughout these measures. And also the education is also the same, because the same NPP government is the main party who raised questions for 6% allocation on education. But even though they are trying to increase the Mahapolo and some reforms in education sector, when it comes to the school level system, 35% of their budget is still allocated to the national schools, which is only 5% of the total school limit. I think less than 5%. So how are these inequalities going to work, and how the implementation is going to work is the key question from our side.
All right, so you believe that there is a certain gap in terms of the practicality and also the framework that they have built about.
Yeah, because we have seen the same in the past 1 year as well, so that's why we doubt.
All right, so do you have any response to that, Mr. Javiru? Now, when it comes to the practicality, I believe that was my previous question as well. But then again, now, when it comes to the digitalization, now specifically on governance and digital transformation, the budget actually plans for the digital ID. But then again, he also emphasized how cyber security law is not very strong. And then again, there are so many entities that get harassed or are being affected because of this. Now, there are certain things that are not looked up to in terms of maybe digitalization, but rather digitalizing the ID. So do you think there are much more important things than that you have missed through, or any certain response towards his end as well?
Yeah, as far as the question is concerned, I think digitalization will be the main and the most important motive, as well as the significant practice that the government will have in the future, right? So then that is, so the steps that we have taken so far are concerned that we have already brought the Personal Data Protection Act to the Parliament, and it has been passed, and we think that the process is long, it's true, but still we have to believe and we have to move forward with being optimistic about the future. So then, so you know that the GovPay system has been introduced, and it is in the process, and more than 1 billion rupees have been used. The people have used for their transactions, they have used the GovPay. As well as we have established the National Cyber Security Operations Center. So for the things that Mr. Sajishnavan mentioned. So it's true that the cyberbullying as well as the cyber security must be in the main consideration. So then that is the National Cyber Security Operations Center, as well as so we have set up a GovTech Institute to accelerate digitalization process, as well as the Digital Economy Authority will be established near future. So in the next month we have planned to establish this GovTech Institute to accelerate the digitalization, as well as the Digital Economy Authority. So as well as we are planning for issuing 5G licenses also, and for all these things plus digital innovation, so we have allocated 300 million, but still it's a long way. But all the people in the government are working, especially the responsible ones, to make these are sometimes dreams, but which can come true, and which we are believing strongly those things can be converted into the positive practices in the next month. next year.
All right.
And one special thing, if I mention about the education, as a person who was in the field of education as a teacher and a principal, so you know that in Sri Lanka there are more than 10,000 schools where around 375 schools are there as the national schools, which are run by the line ministry, right? So the national schools. So, but the thing is that though the number is less, the most of the students are there in the national schools, right? But when it comes to the provincial schools, the number is more, but the number of students are less. So that is why when the allocations are given for the schools, sometimes the more allocations are given for the national schools, where we consider that those schools must be developed for the students to get a better education, while giving and developing the provincial level schools also into a certain level that we are expecting.
All right, so I believe that was very well elaborated in terms of how it is to be done as well. So now the government aims for a medium-term growth of about 7%. Now, in your opinion, do you see this target realistic in the given subsequent conditions of Sri Lanka, or rather do you think that this is something not adequately possible?
It is not impossible, but again, there are several problems in this. So, currently, Sri Lankans facing, still they are trying to live up to their standard of, the standard of living, and their lifestyle is aligned with all these budgets and the price hikes and everything, and also the VAT taxation and everything is implied. So, now, after the new budget, so the taxation is a more putting more pressure on mainly on SMEs. Also, the people who are living have to pay more VAT. So the VAT is going to directly affect the public, not the enterprises, but the public. So what the government has promised before they take over the government, they will reduce the petrol cost, the living cost and everything. But if they adapt the VAT and the 15% taxation is up to 30% for the SMEs and everything, so the major revenue from for the government is from the taxation, which is going to exceed up to 30% for the SMEs. So which is like entity which is going to earn like 100,000 rupees per day, is going to pay around 15% of their value for the government. So if they are willing to promote local based businesses or the national products for the future, if they implement all these VATs, how are they going to survive? So will they encourage to start businesses? And also they are telling that they have allocated rupees 1,500 million for startup ecosystem, but still the taxation is high, and also if they are going to take a loan, the loan charges are high and everything is high. So the system is a bit mess, and like they will be afraid to start a startup in Sri Lanka. They will be like, if they are willing to start a startup with a capital investment, they will be focused on starting it on maybe a foreign country or something. So already brain drain is there. This will be an added pressure. And also when it comes to the freelancers who earns in dollars or the foreign currencies, which could encourage our foreign reserves and like which could encourage the brains from Sri Lanka to observe money from the various countries, that's also taxed up to 30%. So this will affect their willingness to work abroad. So either they will fly abroad or they will start working in Sri Lanka, which is going to affect our foreign reserve. So all these things are going to directly affect our system. And also, as I said, the government is funding the national schools mainly because the number of students are high. Also, the facilities in the national schools are already high, and they are up to a certain level which they can manage maybe to a year or two until 2028, which we can repay our debts and maintain our ecosystem. But the rural schools, which were the talk of the town, they were planning to close the schools which have lesser students, are a main issue, because all those schools doesn't have proper water structure, proper infrastructure, proper roads to travel. They don't have proper transport. So most of those schools have the children who only goes to those schools by walking. So if we close the schools, so if we don't give proper facilities to those schools, we won't get students coming out of those schools with proper exposure, proper education, or proper sporting, or whatever the leadership qualities we expect. So even most of the people from Sri Lanka are praising the current president from his school. So even that was a national school, even though that comes from a village, they praise because he comes from not an urban school, but from a village. So those systems should be given to the rural schools, which has like 400, 500 students, maybe 50, 60 students. There should be a proper way to develop those schools, or proper infrastructure, at least proper transport or whatever the requirement they need. Even without water or proper access to a tuition class or anything, how they can build their stabilities. So if we are spending like millions and billions for sporting in Colombo schools, they don't even have access to touch a bat or a football or a rugby ball. So that's why the sporting culture is mainly centered in Colombo, Galle and Kandy. So those are the things we have to focus, rather than giving the privileged schools or the entities more privileges, which same as its budget, because this is mostly suggested by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, which is high influence on high earning businessmen. So, but we are taxing the small and medium enterprises. So that's not going to work for long run.
All right. I believe there were substantial questions which the government might have to respond in terms of which we see as a question that you might have given about, but then again maybe the common general public is voicing up as well. So let's dig deep into what the answers the government has in terms of the VAT, the taxation, and more about the budget. Before that, let's go in for a short commercial break. This is The Public Square. Welcome back to TPS. We were discussing about the national budget of 2026 and the allocations for certain segments as well. So, Mr. Wijeweera, now when it comes to the situation now, given that Sri Lanka is in a situation where we are also going through a large debt situation, and also with the engagement of leaders and also the IMF, how does this budget align with those external expectations? Because just as much as we focus on the internal segments like the enterprises, the education, healthcare, it also affects in terms of the external expectations. So how is this Sri Lankan budget is going to align with the external expectations, and how will it affect Sri Lanka's credibility in the long run?
Yeah, actually so we know that we need to be very aware of the geopolitical concerns, what is happening around us, global trends, and the various kinds of strategies that the various world leading political giants are taking. So we need to be very aware, especially India, China, and USA, and the other countries. So I think that we are maintaining a very, very healthy foreign relationships with the certain giants of the geopolitics scenario in the world. Especially we are dealing with India, China, as well as especially USA, as well as the other countries. Well, I think it will not be a big matter. If I just go back to the questions raised by Mr. Sajishnavan first about the schools, conditions of the schools. So it was the tragic situation which was given for us, as well as the present by the previous regimes. I think that is truly accepted, and so that is what we need to change, and we are trying to have the clustering system for the schools in the provincial schools, rural schools, which there will be a school in the cluster which will be given more facilities as well as the good environment. There are some schools where there are around 10-20 students, right? So that is but there are 5-6 teachers, but they don't have enough facilities, we believe, and we accept that. So then they must be given good opportunities to learn in a healthy environment. So that is what we have concern, and we have allocated money for that. So if I just go back to another question about SMEs as well as the what kind of plans are there for us with the SME sector. So we are going to, you know, that SME sector, we believe that in the economy it is more than 50% of the GDP as well as the working labor force. So we know that it is the most important sector which needs to be pay our attention. So that is why we are going to have Public-Private Partnership Act as well as the Investment Protection Act next year, especially with the concern of bringing FDIs for Sri Lanka. So we have allocated more money for various loan schemes. We have allocated more money for the SME sector. We are working in the district level and the provincial level as well as the national level with the purpose of developing the industries in this country, because it is the main motive of the economic growth. So we have taken various steps, and I would like to mention you. So there are various kinds of economic parks as well as the economic zones are there. Some, especially there are 2, Kurunagal and Gold, there are 2 technology parks which have been started and abandoned. Now we are going to start them, as well as we are going to start 2 economic parks in Derana and Nuwara area. We have allocated 1,500 million rupees for that. And we believe that economic sector, especially the SMEs, must be given the proper concern, as well as they must be identified as a most important sector in the process, and they must be given the opportunity as well as the infrastructures as well as the environment. One last thing, if I say about this must be a collective effort, right? This must be a collective effort. No government can face the challenge ahead of us, right? So it must be a collective effort. So everyone, government servants and everyone, public sector, general public, everyone, even the opposition, everyone should act together with the media also. So then only this country can be converted into the transformation stage that we are expecting. That is what I feel.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Wijeweera. And now, when it comes to the very final remark, I actually want this very short and sweet. Just as Mr. Wijeweera mentioned, how that the government needs the support. How is UNP ready for the support in terms of making this execute the national budget of 2026? I really want it short and sweet.
Thank you. So the UNP is ready to support the government if they are willing to execute a plan that survives a long run and supports the national economy. Because we don't want a policy that gives a short-term happiness for the people, but like again we fall into an economical trap, and we can't survive economical dip after all these years. So there are few things that we have to notice, and like we have to highlight where they contradict from their presidential manifesto and this main budget. So they initially promised to abolish the executive presidency and also the cap of cabinet ministers with 25 MPs, and also they were planning to abolish all the vehicles and the permits and everything. But now they have allocated 12.5 billion for the cabinet vehicles. But rather than allocating 12.5 billion from government's money, even the existing system was under the permit system. So the ministers will buy their vehicles, they will maintain, they will look after the vehicles, they will change the parts or whatever the things. So now this is fall upon the government's liability. So this is not going to be an asset, but rather it's becoming a liability. And also the president's fund, the fund for the president's allocations have been reduced, have been increased, and the fund for prime minister's allocations have been reduced. So which makes a doubt for us to how the abolishment of executive presidency is going to work by allocating more budget to the president and reducing the budget of prime minister. And also there's another contradiction in the taxation. So they were proposing the progressive tax reform, higher personal exemptions, and also reduce VAT essentials. Now the VATs have been higher, and also the manifesto lowers the taxes, but the budget broadens and also raises the indirect taxes. And one major thing is the social welfare area. They were promising a uniform pension of 5,000 rupees for elders and 10,000 rupees for disabled and disabled persons. But now it's only it's becoming only a targeted benefit. They provide targeted benefits only for thalassemia patients, and also the wage top-ups only increased by 250 rupees, which was earlier proposed 2000. They proposed 2,138 rupees, I guess, or 300. So, which is higher than 2,000 in the earlier petitions. Now they have reduced it to 1,500. And one last controversy is their foreign policy and sovereignty. So they have contrast opinions on the foreign policy and mainly on the IMF-led internal alignments. So if they are going to cope up with the IMF, they have to accept that we are going to focus on the IMF reforms, and we are ready to accept IMF reforms. As Mr. Ruwan said, we have to accept and go align with the IMF reforms. So they are completely contrasting their own statements from their manifesto before they are taking up the positions, and now they are realizing the practical challenges and accepting it. So if they are willing to accept the realistic situation, and the same thing we were trying to do during our tenure as well. So if they are willing to accept and cope up with a mechanism that's going to sustain for a long run, and if they have a solid plan after 2028 to repay the foreign debts, and after 2026, after the IMF program finishes for the reassurement, I think the producer is telling to finish. So we are ready to cope up with them, but not with all these complications. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe these questions will be answered by the NPP government with their actions itself, along with the national budget that has been proposed for 2026. That was a very fruitful and a factual discussion in terms of the optimism and the positive note that the government is holding in terms of the government. So I want to thank Mr. Ruwan Wijeweera. Thank you so much. And also Mr. Sajishnavan Sivachandrathevan. Thank you so much for joining. So while thanking all these gentlemen, I also want to thank all our viewers. We are looking forward for your feedback to 076-805-7933, and also for our email feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk. We will see you once again with another episode where we discuss about the most relevant and pressing conversations that shape the political landscape of Sri Lanka. Till then, have a good night and stay safe.
When I feel like nothing's gonna hold me down, you used to be scared of falling until you came around. Now I just wanna stay here and fall into midnight. Want nobody else now, won't it feel right? Time and job wasted, it's not wasted time. So stay till the morning, stay for a while. I just wanna lay here and fall into midnight and fall right into you. Always thought I was too far from grace, yeah. I was numb before